What is the number one question we all face after child loss? Did you say it out loud already? Yeah, it's why. Let's get right to it today, friend, because the death of your child takes you to a bottomless pit where life will never be the same. The floor opens and swallows you in darkness. Your future turns to dread as life without them gets further and further away as each day passes. Your joy leaves and purpose disappears as each moment seems impossible to live without them. Hope fades and the light of life is no longer there. Breathing hurts as the weight of your child's death presses down so heavily against you to the point you can hear your own heart beating, while secretly wishing your heartbeat stopped with your child's. Life is extremely disorienting. It's like looking out the window on a fast-moving train. Everything's a blur. Your life stopped with the last beat of your child's heart. Yet the world just keeps going and going. You attempt to focus on God's word, but the words sound like noise that have no meaning. Where was God when my child was dying? Runs like a loop in your mind over and over. Does he really love me? Did he love my child? Does he really care about my life? Is God really good? The roar of the why gets louder and louder. Confusion sets in. And when those questions go unanswered, before you realize it, you've decided you have no real purpose. Friend, if this is you, stick with me because you need hope. And this is why God has put me in your path right now for this moment. Are you lost in the chaos of grief, struggling to find your way in the darkness? Are you asking yourself, will I ever be able to enjoy life again? Are you wondering where God is right now? Welcome to the Grief Mentor Show. This podcast is a safe place for you. It will shine a light into the shadows, helping you discover that joy and pain can coexist, that you still have purpose, and there is a path to peace. Hello, friend. I'm Teresa Davis. I, too, was lost in the chaos of grief the day my son died. Just like you, I longed for peace in this unfamiliar world. I longed for the weight crushing my chest to be lifted so I could breathe. I clung tightly to the anchor, and it was there that I discovered the tools I needed to navigate life after loss. And I'm ready to help you do the same. If you're ready, I'm holding my hand out to you, friend. Let me show you the way, one step at a time. We're talking about the roar of the why today. I've not met a grieving parent yet whose biggest battle wasn't the roar of the why. Child loss is not natural. Death comes to those who age. That's our mindset. None of us as moms or dads made the decision to have children with the thought in mind that they would go to heaven before us. The why keeps you in a place of overwhelm and confusion, and it sets you up for a spiral down the path of, is life really worth living? Do I even have purpose anymore? These are all huge spiritual roadblocks to overcome, and it's not easy to come to a place where you can decide that, yes, my life is still worth living. Stick with me because I'm going to give you some tools today to help you start moving away from that place of hopelessness and dread to a place where the light of life will return. Now, notice I didn't say life is going to go back to the same that it was before your child left this earth. If you listen to my podcast for any length of time, you know how I feel about that. Life will never be the same. But, okay, hear me now. But, and that means but God. Through Him, life can still be good again. Because here's the truth, okay? We as humans need something to look forward to, right? We need that feeling of anticipation that something good is in our future ahead of us. Something that puts a little bounce in our step. Yeah, I know. I just heard you say, Teresa, there is no bounce in my step. I can hardly put one foot in front of the other right now. Yes, my friend, I get it. Because I've been exactly where you are right now. That's why I created the Grief Roadmap. It is a step-by-step plan that gives you the tools that you need to reach a place where you can decide that, yes, life is still worth living. The current session is full because I only take 10 students at a time, so each and every one of you can get what you need from our time together. Now, the next 12-week session starts in January, and there's a waiting list for that on my website at thegriefmentor.com that you can join. If you're on the wait list, it gives you priority seating over everyone else. So I know that January is a long way off, and I know that you need help right now. I was so desperate for hope in my own personal journey, I'll never forget it. I spent 3 weeks on a waiting list to see a counselor that I felt like could help me, because I didn't want to pick just any counselor, right? I picked a counselor that I chose that I felt like would be able to meet my needs. And that's important for you too, friend. But you don't have to wait till January. I want to help you right now relieve the exhaustion that you feel trying to piece together a path on your own. We'll work through your personal story of grief, and I'll help you create a roadmap that will help open your eyes to things you have not considered. And it'll help you rebuild your life back and encourage you that you can do this. Look, facing challenges on a good day leaves us confused and struggling. Add the loss of your child, and it feels impossible. So allowing someone you trust to see inside the walls of your grief to help you personalize a plan just for you that will open your eyes to what God has for you, I'll help you see that you still have purpose. And as we process the death of your child, we'll help remove that overwhelm and the doubts and the guilt that's keeping you stuck, all through the eyes of God's Word. Not sure this is for you? Go to my website at thegriefmentor.com. Read my story. Read the reviews of people that I've worked with. Because, friend, I want you to stop imagining what life could be like if you could manage all those thoughts, if you could see life through a different lens, through God's lens. Don't prolong it. Stop waiting until the time is right. The time is now. Don't live another day in the pit of despair that you're in right now. Go to thegriefmentor.com, go to the coaching page, and book your call. So let's get into the tools that I'm giving you today. And we're going to make this simple, friend, because what you need is simple. I want you to focus on only one thing this week, and that is the answer to this question. What makes me feel overwhelmed? I want you to write that question down. Go get a pen and paper. Now, if you're driving, don't reach over into your console or into your purse to find a pen. Don't do that, okay? Make a mental note and come back to it. By the way, did you all know that my podcast all has a transcript? So you won't have to listen to that whole thing again. Just find the transcript. So if you're listening on Apple Podcast, after you click on the episode, just below that, you'll find a spot that says transcript. Then you can scroll through it to find the questions or the content that you want to refer back to. So you don't have to listen to the whole episode again, although I will say sometimes that's helpful. So if you're driving or walking, make a mental note right now of what makes you feel overwhelmed. Now, you're going to have to go deeper than saying living without my child. You're going to have to drill down, friend. And you're going to have to think about what aspects of living your life makes you feel overwhelmed. It's going to take a minute to get this flowing. If you're like me, I have to write it down. And usually it starts out with a few surface things. But let that flow out of you and keep going, because I want you to go deeper than that. Because this is what you'll find. If you allow yourself to be honest, gut-wrenching honest, you're going to discover the root of the overwhelm. And it's different for each one of us. Okay, it reveals the heart of the matter. It unearths, so to speak, what you're pushing down and you don't want to think about. Now, if this is too difficult for you or it's too scary to do on your own, then let's do it together. The reason this is so important is because until you drill down to what is making you feel overwhelmed, you cannot come to a place where you can manage it. Let me give you a visual example of this. Now, because I'm an RN, my mind immediately goes to wound care. If you have an abscess somewhere in your body, you can treat the outside of that with good skin care. You can wash it with a cleanser. You could use betadine or Hibiclens or any kind of antiseptic wash. But all the wound care on the outside will never relieve the root of the abscess. I don't want to get too graphic here for all of you that have a weak stomach, but stick with me here for a moment, because the only way to relieve an abscess is for the doctor to make an incision deep into the heart of the abscess and allow all the infected material to drain out. Then after all the infected material drains out, there's next steps of cleansing out the wound and even possibly removing the sac that held the abscess. It'll require flushing with sterile saline, maybe even instilling some antibiotics to make sure that all of the infected material has been removed. Then if it's deep enough, they may leave it open, and the patient may have to repeat these steps on their own of cleansing out the inside of that abscess. Because if this area is closed before all the infection is removed, guess what? You're going to end up with another infection and maybe what we call wound dehisce, where, the wound busts open again. Yeah, you get the idea. I started out today talking about the roar of the why, and we moved into what makes you feel overwhelmed. And this is why. The two go hand in hand. Does this sound familiar? You're going about your day and you're processing life as it comes at you. Then all of a sudden, you feel this rush of emotion. And then you say, but why, Lord? Why? Can you please just help me understand? Maybe your thought processes was a little more colorful than that. And believe me, I was there too. It's a constant rumination that never really leaves you. But I promise, when you work through your grief in a way that I described with that wound care, the why gets quieter. When you break down the question that I ask you today, what makes me feel overwhelmed, and drill down and keep going each time you write something, go a little deeper, then that is going to give you the springboard to start searching the scriptures to get the answer to those questions. Because this is why, friend. The more we know God, the more we will trust Him. The more we trust God, the more we will obey Him. The more we obey Him, the more we will experience Him. The more we experience God, the more we'll love Him. The more we love God, the more we'll want to know Him better. And that's the truth, friend. And that is how I got from where I was when Andrew died to where I am now. I fell in love with Jesus all over again. And I want that for you too, friend, because that is the only way to survive living the rest of your life without your child walking by your side. What are the barriers standing between you and Jesus right now? That's what you write on your paper. That's what you have to figure out. And then you have to work through that step by step, just like I explained in the wound care. But I can tell you right now that it won't happen without intention. You're going to get up tomorrow feeling the exact same way you feel today if you don't make a decision to make working through your grief a priority. I want to leave you with hope today. There are no barriers between Jesus and your child right now. Let that soak in a minute. 2 Corinthians 5:8, Paul tells us to be absent from the body is to be at home with the Lord. There is no greater joy to be had than to know that your child is resting in the arms of Jesus. No more struggling in this earth suit. The weight of living here has been removed for our children. But the verse goes on to say, but whether we are here in this body or away from this body, our goal is to please Him. It's what we trust in, but don't yet see, that keeps us going. You might say, Teresa, I'm just not there yet. And that's okay, friend. There is no condemnation coming from me. But I do want to encourage you that it is possible to get there. Friend, this is God's work. He just asked me to join him. He asked me to be his hands and feet to hurting, aching, overwhelmed hearts. And I said yes. If you choose to allow me to help you get there, if you say yes, then know 100% that God will take your yes and bring you to a place that you could have never imagined on your own. How do I know? Because he did it for me. And if it's possible for me, then it's possible for you, friend. I want to quickly let you know that I'm planning an episode about child loss by addiction, and I plan to release it next week, so you don't have much time. But if you would like for me to include your thoughts about your child's death by addiction that you want everyone to know and understand, you have two options. You can send me a voicemail at the link in the show notes, or respond to the email that I sent you this morning with your thoughts that you want me to include in that episode. And when you send those thoughts to me, please let me know if it's okay to use your name or whether you want to remain anonymous. Either way is perfectly fine with me. Now, if you're not a Grief Mentor Insider and you don't receive my emails and you want to, just go to my website and join my newsletter. It comes out weekly. It's a nurturing email. I make my insiders a priority. Okay, I make sure they have the resources they need while I'm walking alongside them in their grief. I have a little mini blog where I share a little deeper insights into the grief of child loss and a little bit into my personal life. They are the first people to be informed of any specials or new offers that I'm releasing. So head over onto my website at thegriefmentor.com and join today. And that's all I have for you today. So until next time, take care. Did today's episode touch your heart? I pray that it did. Did you walk away a little lighter? If you did, would you share this episode with someone that you know needs to hear it today? And could you take 30 seconds to leave me a review on Apple Podcast? I would so appreciate it if you did. From my heart to yours, see you next week.